If you've been keeping an eye on the latest buzz around the Dallas Cowboys, then you already know things are starting to heat up in a big way, especially when it comes to the draft. And right now, one idea is starting to gain serious traction among fans and analysts alike. The possibility of Dallas making an aggressive move up the board. Not just a small jump, but a bold leap into the top tier of the draft, potentially all the way into the top 3. Yeah, that kind of move. It all started gaining momentum after some notable draft discussions hinted at the Cowboys being more active than expected. The focus quickly shifted toward a specific type of player, someone who could immediately elevate the defensive side of the ball. And when you look at how Dallas has been building recently, it actually lines up. This is a team that has clearly been investing time and energy into reshaping its defensive identity, looking for explosive playmakers who can disrupt offenses and change games in an instant. That's where the name David Bailey starts to enter the conversation in a serious way. Coming out of Texas Tech, he's exactly the kind of edge rusher that can make offensive coordinators lose sleep. His last season was nothing short of dominant, consistently applying pressure, getting into the backfield, and showing a level of athleticism that's hard to ignore. We're talking about a player who thrives on speed, bend, and pure explosiveness off the edge, traits that fit perfectly into what the Cowboys have been trying to build defensively. Now, the idea of trading up to grab a player like that sounds exciting, no doubt about it. But once you start breaking it down, things get complicated pretty quickly. Moving from the middle of the first round into the top 3 isn't just difficult, it's extremely costly. Historically speaking, teams don't just give up those premium picks without getting a massive return value. And when you analyze what Dallas currently has in terms of draft capital, it becomes clear that pulling off a deal of that magnitude would require some serious sacrifice. There's been a lot of chatter about what a potential package could look like, and some of the ideas floating around are, frankly, unrealistic. The gap in value between a mid-first-round pick and a top 3 selection is enormous. It's not something you can bridge with just a couple of extra picks, unless you're willing to include multiple high-value assets. And that's where the hesitation starts to creep in. Because while the upside of landing a top-tier defensive talent is undeniable, the cost of getting there might end up creating more holes than it fills. At the same time, you can't ignore the strategic appeal behind the idea. If the Cowboys truly believe that a player like Bailey is a game-changer, someone who can anchor the defense for years to come, then making a bold move could be justified. Teams that take risks in the draft sometimes end up redefining their future, especially when they hit on elite talent. But it's always a gamble, and one that front offices have to carefully weigh against the long-term stability of the roster. Another layer to this situation is the uncertainty surrounding other teams picking near the top. If there's even a slight chance that multiple franchises are targeting the same type of defensive player, the urgency to move up increases dramatically. Nobody wants to sit back and watch their top target get snatched away just a few picks before their turn. That's how draft day pressure builds, and that's when teams start making aggressive decisions that can either pay off big or backfire completely. And then there's the alternative approach, which might actually make more sense depending on how the board falls. Instead of jumping all the way into the top 3, the Cowboys could look at more realistic trade-up scenarios within the top 10. The kind of move still gives you access to high-level talent without completely emptying your draft resources. It's a more balanced strategy, one that allows you to stay competitive both now and in the future. When you start analyzing those mid-range trade-up possibilities, things begin to look a lot more feasible. The value gap isn't nearly as extreme, and the chances of finding a trade partner increase significantly. Plus, depending on how the draft unfolds, there could still be impact defenders available in that range. Players who can step in and contribute right away without requiring a massive investment to acquire. The reality is, this entire situation highlights just how complex draft strategy can be. It's not just about identifying talent. It's about timing, positioning, and understanding how the rest of the league is thinking. One move can shift the entire landscape, and teams have to be ready to adapt on the fly. For the Cowboys, the question isn't just whether they should trade up, but how far they're willing to go to get the player they want. And as the conversation continues to evolve, you can feel that sense of anticipation building. Every new report, every rumor, Every mock draft adds another layer to the story. Fans are starting to debate what the best course of action really is, weighing the excitement of a blockbuster move against the logic of a more calculated approach. Because at the end of the day, this decision could have a major impact on the direction of the franchise moving forward. What makes this even more interesting is how unpredictable this draft class feels overall. There isn't a clear consensus across the board, which means teams could value players very differently. That kind of uncertainty opens the door for unexpected moves, surprise selections, and yes, potentially even a bold trade from a team like Dallas if the right opportunity presents itself. As the conversation keeps unfolding, the focus naturally shifts from the bold idea of jumping into the top 3 to something that feels far more realistic, yet still aggressive enough to shake up the entire draft board. Because if there's one thing history has shown, it's that teams don't need to reach the very top to land elite talent. Sometimes positioning yourself just a few spots higher can make all the difference, especially when you're targeting a specific type of defensive playmaker. And this is where the Cowboys strategy could start to take a more calculated turn. Instead of paying a massive price to climb all the way up, there's a growing belief that moving into the top 10 or even the top 7 could be the sweet spot. It keeps you within striking distance of premium prospects while avoiding the kind of overpayment that can set a franchise back. It's a move that still sends a strong message. This team is serious about upgrading its defense right now. When you look at potential trade partners in that range, there are a few teams that stand out simply because of their current roster situations and long-term plans. Some of them might be more interested in accumulating picks rather than staying locked into a single high selection. That creates an opportunity, and for a front office that's willing to be proactive, it's the kind of opening you have to at least explore. Because once those windows close, they close fast. The challenge, though, remains the same. Even in these more reasonable scenarios, the Cowboys would still need to give up valuable assets. Draft capital is everything in today's game, and giving away multiple high picks can limit your flexibility not just in the present, but in the seasons ahead. It's a delicate balance between being aggressive and being reckless, and that line can get blurry very quickly when the pressure is on. There's also another angle that can't be ignored, and that's how the rest of the board might fall. If the run on defensive talent starts earlier than expected, suddenly the urgency to move increases again. Teams picking just ahead could easily target the same positions, especially edge rushers, which are always in high demand. And if that happens, standing still becomes a risk in itself. Waiting too long could mean settling for a player that doesn't quite fit the vision you had in mind. At the same time, there's always the possibility that things break in your favor. Every draft has its surprises, players slipping further than expected, teams making unexpected selections, and entire strategies shifting in real time. If the Cowboys stay patient, there's a chance that a top-tier defender could fall right into their lap without needing to trade at all. It's not the most exciting outcome, but sometimes the smartest move is the one you don't make. Still, the idea of being aggressive continues to hover over everything. This is a team that understands where it stands, competitive, talented, but still missing a few key pieces to truly take that next step. Adding a dynamic edge rusher could change the entire identity of the defense, giving them that extra level of explosiveness and consistency that separates good units from great ones. And that kind of impact is hard to put price on. Another factor that adds complexity to this entire situation is the future. The Cowboys don't just have to think about this draft. They have to think about what comes next. Moving picks from future years can be tempting, especially if it helps you secure a player you believe in. But it also limits your options down the road, making it harder to adjust and respond to new challenges. It's a decision that requires confidence, not just in the player you're targeting, but in the overall direction of the team. And then there's the psychological side of it all. Draft day isn't just about numbers and value charts. It's about instincts, pressure, and reading the room. Front offices are constantly trying to anticipate what other teams are going to do, while also protecting their own plans. One unexpected move can trigger a chain reaction, and suddenly the entire board looks different. In that kind of environment, being prepared for multiple scenarios isn't just important, it's essential. For the Cowboys, that means having a clear understanding of their priorities. If their goal is to come out of this draft with a difference maker on defense, then every option has to be on the table. Trading up, staying put, even trading down and reshaping the roster in a different way, all of it has to be considered. Because once the clock starts ticking, there's no time for hesitation. What makes this situation so fascinating is that there isn't a single correct answer. Every path comes with its own risks and rewards, and the outcome won't be clear until well after the picks are made. That's what makes the draft such a compelling part of the NFL calendar. It's unpredictable, it's strategic, and it has the power to redefine a team's future in a matter of minutes. And as the anticipation continues to build, one thing becomes very clear. Whether the Cowboys decide to make a bold move or play it safe, all eyes will be on them. Because the decisions they make in this moment won't just shape the upcoming season, they'll influence the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. And as these possibilities continue to gain momentum, another important layer starts to emerge in this entire discussion, and that's how the Cowboys internally evaluate risk versus impact. Because it's one thing to admire a player's talent from a distance, but it's something completely different to commit major resources to go get him. That decision comes down to how confident the organization truly is in that player becoming a cornerstone piece. When you think about a prospect like David Bailey, the appeal is obvious. His ability to pressure the quarterback, his explosiveness off the edge, and the way he can disrupt plays before they even develop make him incredibly valuable in today's game. But at the same time, there are still areas of his game that raise questions, especially when it comes to consistency against the run. And that's where teams have to decide if the strengths outweigh the limitations, particularly when the price to acquire him is so high. This is where scouting departments and coaching staffs have to be perfectly aligned. It's not just about talent evaluation, it's about projection. Can this player evolve? Can he adapt to the system? Can he become more than what he currently shows on tape? Those are the kinds of questions that determine whether a team is willing to make a bold move or stay patient and trust the board to come to them. At the same time, the Cowboys have to consider how a move like this would impact the rest of their roster-building strategy. Giving up multiple picks doesn't just affect one draft, it creates a ripple effect. It limits your ability to add depth, to address multiple needs, and to maintain balance across the roster. And in a league where injuries and unpredictability are constant factors, depth can be just as important as star power. That's why timing becomes everything. Knowing when to act, when to wait, and when to pivot can define the outcome of an entire draft. If the Cowboys sense that their target won't make it past a certain point, that's when the pressure to move increases. But if there's even a slight indication that the board might fall in their favor, patience could end up being the smarter play. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Shockwaves are rippling through the Dallas locker room after an explosive internal stance reportedly taken by the franchise's top brass. According to sources close to the organization, the Cowboys front office has drawn a definitive line regarding one of its long-standing starters, and the message could not be clearer. He's not playing anymore. The statement, attributed to ownership leadership, is said to have emerged during a tense internal meeting that quickly escalated from routine evaluation to decisive action. What began as a discussion over performance and direction allegedly turned into a firm organizational pivot, one that may redefine the team's immediate future. At the center of the storm stands the collaboration between Jerry Jones and head coach Brian Schottenheimer, who are rumored to have aligned completely on the matter. Insiders suggest that the decision was not impulsive, but rather the culmination of weeks, perhaps months, of growing concern behind the scenes. Still, the abruptness of the reported declaration has left players and staff stunned. Whispers inside the facility hint at a broader shift in philosophy. Some believe this could signal the emergence of a new leader within the roster, while others interpret it as a warning shot to the entire squad. No role is guaranteed, no matter how established. The identity of the player in question remains tightly guarded, fueling speculation across fan circles and media alike. Is it a veteran whose performance has dipped? A locker room presence no longer aligned with the team's vision? Or perhaps a strategic move aimed at accelerating a transition already underway? Publicly, the organization has maintained silence, offering no confirmation or denial. But the tone inside the building, according to multiple reports, has undeniably changed. There's a sense that something significant has shifted, a quiet but powerful reset driven from the very top. If the rumors hold any truth, the Cowboys may be on the verge of a defining moment, one that could reshape both their lineup and identity moving forward. For now, all eyes remain fixed on what comes next, and whether this bold internal stance will translate into a new chapter on the field. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.